Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to our webinar. I'm Michael and Trevor Toll, the Marketing Manager for Solution Systems Inc. Today we have customers and others attending this webinar, so just a bit about Solution Systems before we begin. We are located in Rolling Meadows, Illinois, and we have been in business for 35 years providing software, IT infrastructure, and web development to organizations in the Chicagoland area, as well as Wisconsin, Indiana, and the Midwest region. We are a Gold Certified Microsoft partner. We sell, implement, and support an ERP software called Microsoft Dynamics NAV. NAV is a business accounting software that is geared toward manufacturers, distributors, and service companies. We also sell, implement, and support CRM as well as outsource IT services to our customers. Today we are very fortunate to have Rick Baxter with us from Cost Control Software, and he will be conducting this overview. So I'm going to pass it over to him so we can get started with that.
Okay, good. The recorder has started, and again, my name is Rick Baxter, coming to you live today. It's Wednesday, June the 11th, and it's top of the hour. So I appreciate everybody taking the next 60 to 70 minutes with me, learning about some new things. Hopefully you'll see some new things in Dynamics NAV 2013. I did email to most of you. I had a few people sign up very late, but I did email to you this study guide, and I'm going to start on page 2 of the study guide. So if you'll just turn to that page, this is a class on personalization. So it's going to really show you how to personalize and some other tips along the way. It is not a class, okay? It is not a class on daily workflow. So I'm not going to really show you how to print checks, how to print financial statements, those kind of things. Not how to use the software. It's really going to be how to kind of make changes and personalize the system for yourself. So that is the intent, and we're going to get started with number 1, which is the simplest one of all of them, is to personalize the role center. So we're going to take a look at the page components, the placements, such as my customers, the charts, notifications, outlooks, things like that, how you can personalize your particular role center. So I'm going to assume, I hate to do that too much, but I'm going to assume most of you on the call, I'm going to move that out of the way. Most of you on the call will have some sort of role center. So when you log in, you're going to see a role center. It won't look exactly like mine unless you have purchased our software, which is called Foundation Pack, and then it would look exactly like mine. So I'm going to be showing you today with a database called Foundation Pack, and it's going to have a lot of the features that you may or may not have in your software. So be aware, I'm going to try and make this as generic as possible as we kind of move through the process. So we're going to start with the role center, and I want to show you a couple things about personalizing the role center itself. The role center's got some parts to it. On the left side is your menu side. The middle part is what's called activities, and on the right side are some extra boxes of information such as my customers, my items, maybe some charts, things like that. And we want to be able to make changes. So let's say in your business, items are more important than customers, and so you want to put the items on the top of the list. And so you want to personalize this role center to have it arranged the way you want. To do that, there's a little box right here with the down arrow that you kind of open up, and you just say customize this page. Customize this page. See that right there? And what that does, it brings up actually a little simulation of, in fact, if I move this down, brings up a little simulated view of what you're seeing. So here's the role center layout, which is this area here. It's got activities and Microsoft Outlook in it. It's got my customers, my items, sales performance, that's this chart right here, and notifications. So the idea is, let's say I want to put my items on top of my customers. There's a very easy to use dialog box right there. I just picked the wrong one. You highlight it and then you pick move up. So now I've got my items on top of my customers, and maybe the Outlook, you don't need that to show, so you can hit remove, and it kind of parks it over here with the other available parts, which is right now chart parts and the Outlook. Okay, so let's save this. So I'm going to say OK. And it basically switches, and now the only change is that, first of all, Outlook is no longer showing on the bottom, and my items is now shown above my customers. So pretty quick little change. That's personalization, okay? Placing information where you want them. Let me do that one more time just to be sure you saw that. So if I go customize this page, let's take the chart. Maybe that's a real important chart to you. You want to move it up to the top, or you want to add in another chart. Let's do that too. So here's chart parts. I pick add. I get a blank chart, but then I just customize it, and I say, okay, well, I'm going to put in one of these other charts. And there are a bunch of charts, and I'm going to talk more about these here a little bit later on. But let's just say sales orders per status. So I just say, okay. And I want that one up here. So I'm just you just kind of win with it, you know. So here's the counts of sales orders. I've got about 40 open sales orders, and looks like about 20 that are released sales orders. So again, you're customizing this to match the way you want it. Now this is personalization. Basically I'm working on my notebook computer here as I do this presentation. The changes that I make only affect me. That's why it's called personalization. So when I've changed this screen around, the only person that really sees that change is me. Anybody else, let's say I've got 20 other users using the same software. They don't see any of that. That's why it's personalization. And I'll talk a little bit later on about how to make it global so that everybody sees the change, because there's two different ways to do it. But this session today is on personalization, not globalization. Let's go to number 2. I think you get the idea. We're going to now personalize the navigation pane. That deals with button placements, new menus, restoring defaults. We're going to kind of walk you through a few things there. So I'm starting you off slow. You may know these things already. The navigation pane is this group of choices over here on the left side. So let's say in your business, maybe you don't need all the choices that are here. Maybe you don't use service management. There's a small button right down here at the bottom. You can hardly see it right there. And you just click it, and it says customize the navigation pane. I think you can also get to it up here. Let's see, customize navigation pane. So you can get to it two ways. So we'll just click it, and then it shows you again a little image of what this kind of looks like here on the side. So as I kind of move up and down in these different choices, like I go to home, this shows the menus, the main menus that are shown here in the home role center, or the home choice. If I go to financials, then I can see all the choices that are going to show within the financial section. Now I could also say, well, service, I'm not really going to use service, so I don't need to have that on my role center. So I can just hit remove, and it literally removes that. It doesn't delete it, it just removes it for my screen. Realize what this is doing. This is only changing it for my screen. Now I can add it back later in, okay, by saying new, but right now I just kind of did one little change. I want to do one other here. Let's go to home, and I want to add in, while we're doing this, I've got customers, vendors, items, resources. I kind of like to have my contacts show. So I have access to my contact list for CRM. So I'm going to pick add. So this is another little change I'm going to make. So I'm going to pick add, and I'm going to go down to, let's see, where would they be? Sales and marketing. Marketing here. Now it's not contracts, that's contacts. So it's contacts. I say OK, and it just drops it on the menu. I might want to have it actually even above customers, because sometimes contacts will turn into customers, so it kind of is in that sequence. And now I'm going to hit OK, and the changes you've saved will take effect after the application has been restarted. Do you want to restart now? So I'm going to say yes. Okay. And so now, a couple of changes that I made. The service management's no longer on the menu here, and I have a new choice for contacts so that I can click on my contact list and see the contacts, and I can look at opportunities and to-dos and all the things associated with a typical CRM solution, all built right within NAV. Okay, and by the way, on contacts, I will just mention within our foundation pack, we actually have, I'm going to cover that later, but we actually have a specific role center for salespeople. So you can have a salesperson role center which deals with opportunities and to-dos and what that salesperson's next activities are and so forth. So you can have multiple role centers. I will cover that a little bit later on. I'm going to try and force myself to stay on track. I love to talk about all these things. There's so much fun things to show you today. I do have a lot to cover, so I'm going to move fairly quickly. I will do a couple polls as we move along just to make sure that you're staying awake. And by the way, if you do have questions along the way, always feel free to just type them into the question box there. They'll show up on my screen over on my right side. It doesn't mean I'll answer them right away, but I'll certainly get to them by the end of the Q&A session at the end. Again, this session is this particular webinar usually takes me about 70 minutes, so to get through all the wonderful material I want to share with you today. And I appreciate having so many. We've got 43 on the call as of right now. Thank you for taking a little time to spend with Cost Control Software. Glad to have you here and learning about Microsoft Dynamics personalization. Okay, let's move on to number 3, which is personalizing a list. Okay, so we have a list page. We've looked at the role centers and the navigation pane over here. Now we're going to take a look at the list page, and I'm going to use the item list as my example here. And we're going to talk about a few things such as the column controls, customizing the page itself, and some of the things that you really can't do within Classic. So let's go ahead and get to the items. So to get to items, guess what? I could go to inventory. I could come this way, or I have items conveniently located on my menu here. That's why we've designed the Small Business Role Center to have the choices arranged that you would get to: financials, fixed assets, sales and marketing, all. Because in a small business, you wear lots of hats, and so you need access to many different things. So we've put many different things conveniently located right on your menu. Let's go to items. So I click on items. It's going to immediately take me to my item list. So here's the first thing I want you to learn about. The item list and all list windows, this is where everything starts. In fact, if you see, if I click on customers, guess what? I get a customer list. I click on vendors, I get a vendor list. So everything starts from the list. That's the first thing you kind of need to get acclimated to when you're learning the new software. First thing about customization, and I want to encourage all of you to make this one change. If you don't make any of the changes that I show you today, make this one change. It's the column heading. It's just so hard to read when it's just one line, this heading, okay? But you can change that. Just right-click on it and then click choose the height, the header height right there, and set that to 2, at least to 2. That way, like base unit of measure, it's much clearer. Inventory posting, you probably know that's posting group. Okay, vendor item number. So now you can see it, whereas before it's really kind of, some of them are hard to read. So make that change and then go back in a second time and then click apply to all lists. Be sure you do that. It says you're about to apply the heading height of 2 to all lists. So that way the customer list, the vendor list, all your lists are set to a height of 2. It's just having done this for so long, it's just so much simpler to do it. Okay, so there's a question on the board that I think I will answer here rather than at the end. Julie's asking, hi Rick, I'm just curious, is today's webinar all covered in your NAV 2013 training CDs as well? The answer is no. I don't cover any of this in our training DVDs. I'll talk more about those for those of you interested in that a little bit later on. But the personalization is such a specific topic that I really don't cover that in the training DVDs. I do cover Page Designer, which is the full-blown design tool, but not the personalization aspect of it. Okay, so thank you for the question, Julie. Okay, so let's see. So that's the header. I wanted to also mention, and so please do that for all of yours, and freeze pane. This one's important as well. So again, here's the second thing. If you don't learn anything else, learn the freeze pane. When you slide, these columns can get very, very wide. Okay, because you can add additional columns into your lists. And what happens, it gets wide, and you move over here and you come down to these items and you're looking down here and it's like raw material $4.66. But what is that? In other words, I've kind of lost my orientation. And so it's really hard to see what's going on here. And I've got these items, maybe I scroll down and yikes, I can't tell where I am. So what I encourage, now when you scroll back to the left, you can see the items, but you don't want to have to scroll back and forth, back and forth. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is set a freeze pane right after description. Here's how you do this. Watch it closely. I right click, I say choose columns, and right here next to description, we'll talk more about choosing columns, but next to description there's something called add freeze pane. So just click on description. It's after add freeze pane. So it puts it there. You say OK, and it's the nice change that occurs. There's this little line now. You may not be able to see that on your screen, but there's this little line that is drawn in here. So now when I scroll, see my part number and description is frozen on the left side of this window. By the way, when I do these presentations, I'm doing this on my notebook computer, and so it's really, I've got a fairly small screen, and so in your case you would probably widen the screen out as big as your monitor so that it's easier to see. But very often you're going to find that you're scrolling over and you lose things off the left side. So a little tip there, and again that is right underneath choose columns. Okay, where you add in the freeze pane. Now, while you're also here on choose columns, you maybe go, well, what's this choose columns business? So, well, that's where you define the columns in this order. Show columns in this order. On the left side, available columns, these are all the columns that you can actually have on the screen. Doesn't mean you want them all there. In fact, that's way too many. Okay, but just put the ones there that apply. So for example, let's say this field, let's take this one. I'm going to take this posting group one. Okay, so let's say you really don't need that to show. Okay, so you just come in here and you just say remove. It parks it over on the left side. You can always bring it back with the add button, but it just parks it over there. Or if, let's say, the bill of material number is real important in your business, you want to kind of move that up to the top, and maybe the routing is important as well. So you kind of organize the sequence. This is the sequence of those columns, and you just say OK. And now, basically, you see here's the production BOM numbers and here's the routing numbers for those items where it applies. So again, this is personalization. It's not permanent. It is only for you as the operator. By the way, we've got a really nice turnout. I appreciate we got 50 people on the call today. That's almost a record. Almost very pleased that you're taking some time today. I'm going to get into some more advanced topics here in a little bit. I kind of do a little bit of warm up, get you going on this thing, and I hope you'll learn some things as we go along. Okay. Chris is asking about quick entry. I'm going to cover that at the end. Ven is, can you publish your personalization so they're available to others? Yes, I'm going to cover that at the end. Bonnie, can I make some of the personalizations to apply to all users? Same question. Yes, I'm going to cover that at the end and show you how to do that. So there's a big difference. And so people are kind of catching on. I'm really glad you're catching on. Like when I added this production bill of material number here, I did that just for me. And what the questions that some of the attendees are asking is, can I make this so that everybody sees it? I like that design of that screen, and I want everybody to see it just that way. There's a way to do that. We'll talk about that at the end, so hang around for that. Okay, let's go on. We want to go on, keep on going here. So we've covered that, customizations. Oh, and there's one other, and I kind of forgot to mention it back here on restoring defaults. Restoring defaults. So that if you come in here and you make a personalization and you make some of these changes and so forth, and you go, oh my gosh, I really didn't want to do that. I want to put it back the way the original design was. There's an option down here, and I'm not going to press this, but there's an option down here called Restore Defaults. And then it kind of puts it back either the way Microsoft set the defaults or the way your system administrator set the defaults. Now I cover that. I'll cover that at the end. How do you set the defaults? Because that's really the question Ven and Bonnie are asking is, how do I set the defaults so that everybody sees it this way versus a personalization? Big difference in the approach. Okay, so I'm not going to do that just yet. All right, so let's try to keep Rick on track here. So I'm going to go down to number 4 is on fact boxes. Fact boxes for more effective screen layouts, position fields to includes. Boy, I just love fact boxes. So I'll just give you a couple examples here of fact boxes. And I'm just going to use the good old bicycle as my example. And on the right side of the screen, there is a section called fact boxes here. You can turn those on and off, by the way. You can come in here and customize and see there's a choice to show filter pane and fact boxes. If you click it off, then they're gone. Okay, but I'm going to, because I want to talk about them, I'm going to click on fact boxes so that they show up on the right side here. Now, these fact boxes contain wonderful information. Get your eyes accustomed to glancing on the right side and seeing the information that's available in the fact boxes. Now, I've added a couple here. Just as an example, for like the bicycle, I've added in a fact box for supply, and I've added in a fact box for demand. You may or may not have that on your system, depending on whether you purchased any of our databases from Cost Control Software. We include this in all of our databases, the supply and demand. So I can see immediately what my quantity on hand is, quantity on requisition, quantity on production orders, down here on the demand side, quantity on sales orders. So, and as I move down through the list, these numbers are changing. Okay, so I can see exactly, like on spokes, I see I've got 10,000 spokes. I've got quantity on, I've got some demand, 4,450, and on sales orders, 10 supplies. And so I've got basically net available of 5,000, probably a little more inventory than I should really have on hand. And so you can just kind of click and look. Here's one like the rim. I've got 420 on hand, and I've got only got 24 on demand. So I would be questioning that a little bit. I would like, whoa, wait a minute. Why do we have so many of this item, so much supply versus demand? You really want that number to be pretty close to 0. You want a balance between supply and demand, and that's what shows up so nicely in these fact boxes. Now you can have other types of fact boxes. If you notice, there was a chart, so you can put a chart into a fact box. I'll cover more of that a little bit later. You can have pictures. I think I've got a picture of a bicycle here. So you can have a picture of your items, okay, in the fact boxes. You can have additional information. You can have links to drawings and so forth about that bicycle, or some specification documentation, whatever it might be. And you can have associated notes, as well as comments are available. So you've got notes here and you've got comments. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. So these are the fact boxes, and of course you can change these fact boxes. So you can come in and customize, what's called customize the fact boxes right here. Choose fact boxes. So this allows me to kind of, let's say notes is real important, and so I really want to put that right up top. And that chart, inventory performance, not so much. I want to move that down a little bit, maybe even below links. They're still there. I could remove them if I wanted to, and here's some other available fact boxes that are predefined that I could add in. So again, this is all controlled by you as the user. This is all called personalization. Now I've got my notes fact box at the top. I've got my supply and demand, and you can even take this further. So notice within demand, I've got quantity on service orders. Well, you may in your business not use service orders. So you can come in and you can now, right here with this tools button, that little button right there, you can come in and you can say customize. Now I'm customizing the actual fields themselves within that fact box, going beyond what the developers put in that fact box. Now I can come in as a personalization tool and just say, I don't need that. Okay, for me. Now maybe somebody else in your business does, and they definitely want to have that quantity on service orders, but for you, we're talking personalization, you don't need that. So you can actually come in and change that so that you're only looking at the fields that you need. A lot of people ask, how can I make NAV software as efficient to use as possible? Well, this is it. You use personalization. You come in and you personalize the columns, the row headings, what's included in the fact boxes. You design it so that you're only looking at fields that apply to you. That's my standing up on my soap opera a little bit, but that's what I really believe is how you've got to take a little time to do it, okay? And we'll talk more how you can do this and more of a global change than doing it one by one per screen. If you've got 30 users, that's going to take a lot of time to go around everybody's terminal and change that, because it is a personalization. Okay, now before we go further, I'm going to stop here on after number 4, and I want to ask a question. Okay, we've got 51 of you on the call. Thank you again for taking a little time with Cost Control Software today. But I want some feedback. And based on the first 4 things that I've shown you, do you think you can do this? Okay, so just type in, yeah, piece of cake, or easy, I'm following what you're doing, looks good, or you can put in way too hard, whatever you want to. Just give me some feedback as far as how you feel that you are able to do these things. I want to be sure I'm explaining them easily to you. So take a minute, just type away. Okay. Katie says, yes, I believe. I believe too. Alex says, yes. Chris says, yes, already using those. Paul says, yes. Mike says, well taught. Thank you. Andrew says, yes, I can do this. I can do this. Going, great going. No problem, says Marty. Rick says, way too simple. Well, so far, that's a good thing. VT, it says I'm following. Yes. Okay, everybody, wonderful. I appreciate everybody. Susan says yes, yes, yes. I got a bunch of yeses. Looks easy. Easy so far. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, so everybody's following. Perfect. Let's go on to number 5. I'm on page, I don't know if I even have a page number on this thing. What page am I on? I don't think I put page, no, I'm on page 3. Okay, so I did put a page number. Okay, so we're going to talk next about fast tabs and how you can personalize fast tabs. And you definitely cannot do what I'm going to show you in Classic. This is where the role-tailored client really starts to step up as far as the control that the user has over the layout and the design of these screens. Okay, so I'm talking about fast tabs, and we're going to look at the customer card as an example here about adding and removing and adding things, resequencing things, and the fields on each tab can be positioned and promoted or demoted as you want. So we're going to take a look at those right now. So let's go to the customer card. So we go to customers. Remember, it always starts at a list. And I'm just going to pick on the famous Canon Group customer, which you've seen many, many times in demonstrations. So this is the customer card right there, customer 10,000, the Canon Group. And these are the fields that are shown. This is the kind of the first part of the fields. Now, a little clarification for those of you that maybe have used the classic version. When you look at the customer card, there's tabs across here. There's little tabs. And you would click on the different tabs to go to communication, to invoicing, to shipping, to payments. You'd have these tabs across here. Well, in 2013, they've just rearranged it. It's not that big a deal. So you move down. So now the tabs come down this way, and you can open and close the tabs by just simply double-clicking them. So here's the communication tab, and I guess you can also just click that little button there. It's kind of interesting. Notice when it's open, okay, there's no information here, but they do promote. Like here's the phone number, and there's the email address. When you close the tab, they promote, and you can pick and choose which numbers you want to have, what fields you want to promote into the tab itself. So maybe you don't have to have all the tabs open all the time. There's just a few fields that you kind of learn where they are and what it is. Like, you know, DHL, that's probably in the shipping tab, that's who your primary shipper is. So, and there's the customer's phone number. So it's just a quick way to do it. Okay, now let's take a step further and talk about how you can customize this page. So I'm going to come in, customize, and we customize the page. Okay, these are all called pages, and we'll talk about more of how you kind of learn about these pages. And NAV calls them, instead of just calling them tabs, they call them fast tabs. I don't know why. They just did. So here's the tabs: general, communication, invoicing, payment, shipping, and foreign trade. That's these tabs down here. Okay, now foreign trade. For example, if you don't need foreign trade, guess what? You can just hit remove, and it parks it. So now when I say OK, basically my foreign trade tab is gone. And think about trying to do that in Classic. If any of you Classic users out there, there is no way to do that. There's no way that you can personalize that page and make that happen that quickly. Okay? Believe me, I've tried. Cannot be done. Okay, so let's go a little bit further. Let's say in here, I'm looking around at this code, and remember I said let's get the fields down to just the ones that I want, like service zone code. My gosh, what is that? I don't use that. Why do I have that on my screen? So now we want to go even further with the customization of the page. Let's go back to the fast tabs. On the general tab, I can customize the fast tab itself. And so now I'm down one more level deep, gone one more level deep into the actual fields. Choose which fields to show. That's what we're doing. And these are all the fields that are currently showing. You can widen this out. It's easier to see. Okay, so now we've got there's a column and the importance. So what did I say? Service, something about service. Service zone code. Yeah, service, I don't even know what that is. So why do I have that on my screen? So I go remove and I park it. Okay, and maybe responsibility center I want on top of the salesperson code, so I want to move that up. So I can literally change the sequence with these fields as well. Now somebody asked about quick entry. I will just mention that I've got a very nice YouTube video on how to use quick entry. I'm not going to cover that in today's webinar. So for anybody that was interested in quick entry, just do a search on cost control software on YouTube, and there's about a 10 or 15 minute video that talks about, it's probably 10, that talks about how to use this quick entry option. It's a really nice feature, and you should learn about that as well. Okay, so you get the idea of moving things up and down, and that's how now when I save all this, okay, so now what did I move? I forget what I moved. The responsibility center, I moved that above the salesperson code. You see it's just switched the fields. Okay, now think about this in Classic. To do that change in Classic, you'd have to go into Designer. You'd have to probably get your programmer to come in and make those changes and pay lots of money. Now it's all just, boom, you go in there, you just click the fields, and you make the personalization changes. Okay, wonderful new capabilities within the 2013. Okay, now I'm showing you this on the card, and I'm just doing the customer card, but it applies to the item card, the vendor card, every card in the system, and there's lots and lots of cards, as you probably know, in NAV. Okay, so that's a little bit on fast tabs, the sequence, the fields positions. We've covered all that. Let's go to number 6, the ribbon. I love this one, the ribbon. How to control the ribbon, how to promote things, how to demote things, and I may not get into the new groups, but we'll get into some of this. So the ribbon, let's talk about what this ribbon is, first of all. The ribbon, this is the ribbon up here. So I'm on the customer card. You've got a ribbon here. If I close the card and go back to the customer list, you've got a ribbon up here as well. This is the ribbon. Ribbons have tabs to them. So there's the home, which is what it defaults to, and then you've got actions, you've got navigate, choices there, and you've got reports. So these are all the different reports. The home ribbon is where you go, when you open up the list, this is what comes up first of all. Now, a couple comments. Look at all the choices up here. To me, this is overwhelming. And so I would recommend that you kind of skinny this down a little bit. Let's not have quite so many choices up there. You know, do you really need the commission report on this particular list? I would think that would be more proprietary, so you might want to put the commission report somewhere else. All right. Or maybe just you want to leave it back here. In fact, it is. See, it's back here on the reports tab. So let's take a look at how we can actually, I want to demote the commission report, but I don't want to delete it from here. I want to leave it there. I just don't want it on my main home ribbon that I use the most. So now when we go to Customize, again, I use this choice here, Customize, and we pick Customize the ribbon. See it right there? Customize ribbon. Simple. Now again, you get another little representation of what the ribbon looks like. You've got the home, you've got the actions, you've got navigate, and further down you've got the reports. So those are the main sections, 4 sections here. And then you have sections within that. So you've got new, manage, process, new, manage, process. You see they're all listed across here. So if I just come to the section on reports, I'm going to demote that one I didn't want. So I'm coming to the commission report and I'm saying, no, I don't want that on there. So guess what? I'm just going to remove it, which basically just demotes it to, it leaves it, I'm only changing it on the home ribbon. Okay, so I'm leaving it on the reports. So I'm going to say okay. And then now it's gone. And so you can start to clean this up. You'll also find, let me scrunch this down, watch this. If I scrunch this down, look what happens to these icons. You cannot read this stuff, okay? Shipment performance, and what's this one? Customer balance to date. You just can't read this. So you've got to keep your window fairly wide, and the icons will change, magically change, based on the width and visibility of your screen. So again, a large monitor becomes helpful, or not overpopulating your home ribbon with too much stuff. Okay, just again, a little tip as we're moving along here. Okay, so that is the ability to promote, and I think you got the idea on the ribbons. I'm not going to spend too much time on that one. And same for reports. How to control positions of the reports. After I did this, I realized, well, that's pretty much the same thing. Let's talk about the vendor performance report. I get questions about that all the time. So let me just go to the vendors. And so when I'm sitting here on my vendor list, now see, this is a little better. See, this isn't as overly crowded. I've got 3 here that I'd probably try and clean up a little bit, and then my icons would all be about the same size, which I think visually is more appealing and easier to use. So just think in terms of how to make it, how do you make your NAV system as easy to use? Well, don't crunch up tons and tons of choices on this ribbon. Either leave them back here on the back ribbons, which you don't go into as much, but don't overload it here. Now, the one I did promote was like this vendor performance report. I get this question a lot. Is there a vendor performance report? Well, there is with some of the cost control features. And so with vendor performance, this is simply saying, well, is this vendor shipping to me on time? And so it just compares the posting date, to when it was expected. So you have this expected receipt date to the posting date, looks at how many days, and so this one is all early, so he's 100% on time. This one's all early, so he's 100%. And this guy on time and early. Okay, so there's no lates, but there would show up some lates, and then the percentage would change down here. You can then filter this over a certain range of dates. So maybe you want to see for a given vendor, last month, what was his on-time delivery to you? What percentage on-time delivery did he have? So that's just the vendor performance. And again, if that doesn't apply, use your tools here under Customize the ribbon, come into reports. Here's that vendor performance report, and you can just remove it. Okay? You can also change the size of the icon. So if you don't want these big icons, which I personally kind of like the big ones, you can change by clicking on this. You can actually, it looks like it's hard coded. Let me try one of these others. Yeah, there's a choice down here called default icon size. It looks like those are all preset, so we really can't change those. Maybe some of the reports. Let me just look down here real quick. I don't want to take too much time on that. Yeah, here's one where default icon size, you can either have the default small icon or a large icon. You can kind of force them here and actually change the size of the little symbols there, and you can control actually control what the symbol is, although Microsoft recommends certain things like delete should always be the X's and edit should always be the pencil kind of thing. They have kind of standards that they like to recommend for you, but some of these you can pick your own icons for those symbols. Lauren asks, is there a customer performance report also? Of course there is. That's outbound, like on your shipments to the customers. We had that question come up quite a bit about shipping and what percentage on-time delivery you have to your customers. So yes, that's available with, I think that's part of Foundation Pack database. Okay, let's keep going here. We got lots more good stuff to show you and talk about. I'm going to go to number 8. I'm still on page 3. I'm not going to get into queries, but I will get into filters. And this changed a little bit in version 2013 R2, and I'll show you what's new here as this tip on the 24. So let me move this out of the way. And the filtering is done right here, okay? So currently it says no filters applied, okay? So there's no filters applied. But if you want to filter the list based on, let's say, the number or the name or the location, then you just select how you want to do it. I'll do it on the number, and we're going to type in 24. I'm going to press enter. So what it's doing is it's finding all the customers that have a 24 somewhere in their name. I'm sorry, in their number. Okay, so there's like 24 right there. This one ends in 24. This one almost ends in 24. So you can, and what before in the previous versions, you had to type 2*24*, like I still have in the book there. Where is it there? And then press enter. And what it does, it changes it to *24, means anybody that's got a 24. But you can actually just type 24, and it does it that way as well. And then if you want to find 24 in the name, so you just switch from the name to the number 24, and nobody's got a 24, but we could say the. So there's probably somebody with the word the in the name. So there's no these. How about supply? Supply. So here we go, Woodmart Supply Company. So we did a wildcard search and found that particular filter. You can cancel the filter at any time. Just hit X and that cancels the filter. Okay, now that's not so much personalization as it is just kind of how, it's a little tip on how to use the software. One other thing. Julie's asking about how to begin with 24. I don't think they have it as a begin. It's just if it contains, certainly if it begins with 24, it contains 24, it would show up. Okay. So I wanted to show one other filter. I don't know if this is the best place to do it. I want to do it from the customers. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to the customer list, and I want to show how you save a filter, because sometimes you really want to save a filter that you've applied, and this is pretty nice. So I come in here, and here's my customer list, and one of the things I've added is a column for the balance due. Okay, right here's the balance due from that customer, and not everybody has a balance, so I might want to filter it to show just customers that have a balance. So I could change this to balance, and I would say balance is greater than $500. Okay, I'm only interested in those. So I say balance greater than $500, and that's my list. Now, the advantage is that, guess what? You can save this as a kind of permanent filter. Like so I'm always, whenever I look at customers, I'd really like to see just those the customers greater than a $500 balance. There's an option here, kind of hidden, but you can open this thing up. So notice where I was. I'm on customers. Doesn't even look like a menu, but it is. There's a little bitty down arrow there, and you click on that, and now there's an option. You can clear filters, and there's some other things that I'm not going to cover, but there's this save view as. I love this. So you can save view as, and then you give it a name. It's on customers, and we will call it customers balance greater than 500, something like that. So we say OK, and the changes have been made. You want to restart, so boom, 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 we do. And now you get this drop down here on customers and see balance greater than 500. And I can click it, and it takes me immediately to that pre-filtered list of just customers that have a balance greater than $500. So I can see that list immediately. Kind of cool. You might want to be sorting by location, like maybe I just want my Chicago customers that have a balance greater than $500. So you can add multiple criteria and then save that again with this saving the view. Okay, so lots of fun things to show you. Hope you're learning something today. I'll feel disappointed if you haven't learned anything by the time I finish all this. Okay, we still got 49 of you. Thank you so much for taking a little time out of your day to learn some things from cost control software. Certainly hope you're picking up some ideas here. Number 9, notifications versus comments. There's a big change in the way notifications, this is new, and notes versus the traditional comments, and I want to show you some things with the comment block as well. So let's go into, just pick on one of these customers. So I'm going to open up the Canon group. We've been in here before. At least I think we have. So do I have notes? Yeah. Okay. So here's notes. So in my fact box, I happen to have notes. If I don't have them there, I can get to them immediately from this choice here. So I can get to it either way. Okay. So I can get it in the fact box, or I can just pick notes and it opens up the notes screen. I'm going to do it right here in the fact box because I like not having to click buttons to get to stuff. I much prefer to use the slide. So anyway, click here to create a new note. So I just click here and says, so I want to say, Sam, check out the balance on this customer. Okay, and who do I want to send this to? Of course, I'm going to send this to Sam. So right here is Sam, and I want to notify him. So there's a check mark that you just check this. Notify him, and then I save the note. So it puts the note here, but now over on Sam's screen, okay, it's going to pop up a little, well, I don't know if it literally pops up, but in his notification window on his role center, that's why it's important to have notes there, he's going to get this little message that says, check out the balance on this customer. Now, I didn't say customer 10,000, I just said this customer, because all he has to do is click the note, and this customer will open up on his screen. So it's really, really interactive. That's nice. Now, notes is different than comments. And many of you have come from the classic environment where you have the typical comment area. So this is a slow pay customer. Okay, so you can put notes in here. But if you remember, when you're putting notes, you got to go down, down, down one at a time. Well, we fixed that problem with something called word wrap comments. And word wrap basically puts that information into a field like this, and now I can just type. So this is a special window where I can type slowly and just keep typing as much info as I want, and it wraps. Okay, so you saw it wrap. Now I can also use the Microsoft copy paste. So if you have some text, let's say in a Word document or some spreadsheet or something that you want to copy and paste, you can paste it into this dialog. And now watch what happens. When I say OK, it parses it and it puts it right nicely into the into this you know, basically how wide it is. I forget what the width is there. And so it knows where the length is, and it splits it out and puts the comment down here for you automatically. This is really cool. So now let's say you've got some standard verbiage or something that you want to print on a quotation for a customer. So you can actually just have that verbiage out in a Word document, copy it into this word wrap comment area, and then paste it into the, let's say, quote header comments, and then it will just appear, and you know, all that text will come in, so you don't have to type it over and over again. Really cool stuff. Okay, that's called word wrap comments. That's a feature. You may or may not have that in your software. If you would like it, you know what to do. Just call Rick. That's me. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So I think we're doing well here. So that's a little bit on notes and notifications and comments. Document links. Have you seen this? This is cool. This is, I don't know if I'd call this so much personalization as just using the software. Here's the links option here. It's also up here in the home ribbon. So there's a couple places to get to it. We'll just try it this way this time. So let's add a new link. So I just go new. And now the address is what it's wanting. I'm just going to go to a browser. And I just, on my home page, I've got, so let's say I want to put in some picture. Maybe I want a document. Okay, so here's some document. I don't know what this is. Probably something I shouldn't show you. So and then I just save it, and it saves this link right here. And so now I can open that link, okay, and it will open up, it's a Word document, so it opens up this document about, this one is about our new autopilot command capability within NAV. I'll be doing a webinar here before too long just on autopilot, so you can learn about how you can automate printing reports and processes and imports and exports and all sorts of really cool stuff with this autopilot add-on. That's not released. Actually, it is released. It's available, working. I just haven't done a webinar on it to explain what it is. Watch your emails for that. Okay, so that's the ability to add in links, and that can be documents, all sorts of things with the links command. It's really cool. Okay, charting. Let's talk just a little bit about charting. I'll give you an example, but I will be having a special presentation as well in a couple weeks on charting itself. So I want you to watch for an announcement on that. I'll give you an example of charting. And let me clear this filter. Let's just go to all customers. Okay, so here's a list of all my customers. And this is a real good example of where when I first got the software, I was thinking, oh, it doesn't work, because there's this option right here on views to show as a list or show as a chart. And you click show as chart, and it's like, well, that didn't work. So you click back show list, and so there's the list. And so, well, so what the heck does this do? Okay, well, if you read it, it says select measures and dimensions for the chart. Oh, so I got to do something. So here's the way charts work. Can't hear you. So Katie says I can't hear. I'm sorry if sound is not working. Looks like sound is okay. Now I can. Okay, good. Thank you, Katie. So here's how charts work. So I'm looking at my list of customers, okay, and this is the way it defaults. It defaults in just to a normal list of customers. And some have balances, some don't, and some are in different locations, at least in my sample data here. So what I want to do is I want to see that balance by location. So I'm going to create a chart on the fly. So I'm going to come in here. I always do my x-axis. I don't know why. This is just personal preference. I do my x-axis. I was a geometry teacher in high school for many, many years, and so I kind of learned about x and y-axis. So down the bottom is my x-axis, and I'm going to put my locations there. So I'm going to put location code. Look at all the options you've got. Language code. Where's location code? There it is. Okay, so here's location code, and now what I say, balance, so we want the balance. So now, instantly, now we've got something. Now I've got a chart that shows me my balance from my customers by the different locations that we have, the blue warehouse, the green location, the red location, so it's all the balances that are due from those locations. And it was just that quick, and it remembers it. So I can go back to the list. So this is one way to look at it, but I can also show it as a chart. And you can change these parameters, okay? So learn to change these parameters and create these charts. This is how a lot of these ones that are done here on the right side and are added in. And I'm going to have a webinar on the, what's the date? The 23rd of July. You want to write that down. The 23rd of July is my how to do the charts and the wizards and create these and how to place them. We'll show you how to save the charts and add them into fact boxes and do all sorts of great things with the charting functionality within the Dynamics NAV. You're going to love that one. Okay, so there's, and it remembers that, okay? And I'm going to, so I've kind of split this off into its own webinar, which is coming up. Number 12, I want to talk just briefly about the role centers themselves and how they work, and some of the role centers that we provide in our foundation pack database. This is what we call our starter database. We really want all of you on the call to kind of start your implementation of 2013 with this foundation database. Everything that you see me doing here today is part of, some of it's base NAV and some of it is features, as I said at the beginning, of the foundation pack. Okay, so let's take a peek. So I'm going to move that out of the way. Go back to the role center so you guys know where I am. So this is back, kind of home base is where this is. And I'm going to go into departments. All right, this is the small business role center. This is one of like 20 or 25 role centers. So you come to the departments menu. It's right here under application setup. Then you go role tailored client. I've done this so many times. And then I just simply come to profiles. This is a list of all and you can get to it with the search box. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But this is a list of all the role centers that basically come with NAV software and some additional ones that we have added in. For example, Manufacturing Plus role center is in here. My Job Manager role center is also included in this one. I've got one for a salesperson role center, just very specific into a sales manager for them. And also for the small business is the role center that I'm using today. You notice there's a check mark here that indicates that that is my default role center. That's the one I'm showing you today. You can change these defaults, and you can also set it up so when you log in, you can basically pick any of the role centers that you need. So if you want to set up the project manager's role center, the president's role center, the bookkeeper's role center, then you get very specific role centers for that use. Paula says that was easy and cool. I'm hoping that was the charts that you were referring to, Paula. Outperformance when creating charts. Okay, so yeah. So yeah, that charting is I really like the charting. That's why I decided on the charts I wanted to have a webinar just on charting. So watch your emails. That's going to come up in a couple of weeks for one specific to how to do all that charting. I've had a lot of fun building the curriculum for that. Once you've selected this role center, you just the way it works, you just double click here and then you select that's the default that I want to use. I'm not going to do that. And then when you launch the software, it uses that. When you select the server that you want to use, it launches with that particular role center that is predefined. If you have questions on that one, just contact me and we'll go. Hope I didn't goof up something here right at the end of my nice webinar. There we go. Thank you. Open up. Here we go. Oh, I did change role centers. I didn't mean to. Let me go back. Bear with me just a minute. So role center, profiles. I want to stick with my small business role center. So I must have changed it. I apologize. I'm going to set that back to my small business as my default and open up one more time. Da-da-da. It happens. Okay, so give this just a minute to refresh on your screen. And it's flashing on mine. It doesn't look like it's flashing quite as bad on yours. And we're right back where we were. Okay, so lots of nice little role centers, and if you have questions on that, certainly just shoot me an email and I'll talk about those role centers with you. Okay, last couple comments before we wrap this up, and I knew it was going to take time, is I had some questions right at the very beginning about how can you make this more global, and the topic of the webinar today has been on personalization. But how do I make this global? How do I make it so that if I make a change, I want that change to apply to everybody? Okay? That's not in-user personalization. That's what I call globalization. Now, of course, we have a full class on how to do that. It's called our Page Designer class. It's how I get into the actual development environment and make a change to a page or to a form, and not a form, a page, a list, a role center, and make it, then save that so that it's global. Okay, so it's a very inexpensive class. It's only $295. If you don't know where it is, you can just go to our website, and it's costcontrolsoftware.com. underneath training. So here's my training options, 2013, and you just pick Page Designer. So this is the class itself. There's a little picture of it, and it shows all the topics that are included, and you just click the Add to Cart button, and it's only $295, and we'll ship it to you. So it's a great little class for those of you that want to make these changes permanent. That's how you do it. You use the Page Designer tools within the development environment, and yes, that is me up there. Okay, so let's go on. So that's personalization. A few more tips that I just want to mention, and one is the search box. Okay, in fact, I'm just going to move this out of the way for a second so I can see what I'm talking about here. I'll try. Okay, so I want to mention the search box. That's this little area up here. So it's almost like another little menu. So if I want to get to the items, I can just type items right there, and then I can get to all sorts of choices with items. Let's just go items, and it just takes me right to my items list. Okay, if I want to go to customers, I type customers. Here's my customers on home, and guess what? It takes me to my customer. Well, I left it as a chart, so I'm going to show it as a list, and there it is as a list. Okay, so you can use this search box for stuff that you use on a regular basis. It's really simple, and sometimes you'll type several letters in, and it will get close, and you can just pick it. So try that. Okay, the save filter, I showed you that one already. That's the ability, like saving the customer balance greater than $500. Reporting. I do from time to time get people asking about creating reports. And reporting in 2013 is a little more of a challenge than it used to be, at least my opinion is, a little more of a challenge than it used to be in some of the earlier versions. But it's not impossible. Okay, that's the key. It's not impossible. And, of course, we've created a nice class just on how to build your own reports. Okay, it's called Cost Control Training DVD. That's actually not the name. Let me show what that is. So where is my website here? So under training, under Report Designer right there. It's called Report Designer. And it comes on a DVD. We ship it right to your door, and it's all pre-recorded, and it takes you through some very basic reporting into some more advanced reporting. Doug recorded this, one of my chief developers here, and did a great job of creating from your first report to vendor lists, and I think he did some examples with CRM reports and opportunities and what's your open opportunities, things like that. But it gives great examples of groupings and everything within the Visual Studio. So it takes you from a very learning phase with reports and building your own reports. So take advantage of that learning opportunity there. Okay, again, there's just a button you press and you add it to a shopping cart, and away you go. We'll ship it right to you. Okay, reporting. I'll mention that with 2013, I do find that there is better help within the software. I'm not going to go through that right now. There's what are called walkthroughs that kind of walk you through different things that you can learn about in the software. Also, you'll find with the 2013, some of the keys are different, some are the same. F8 key is still the ditto key. That hasn't changed. F2 is still the edit key. But F4 now is the lookup. So where it used to be F5 and 6, it's now F4. And statistics, instead of being F9, which it has been for many years, is now F7. We just have to get over it and learn F7 in statistics. It works fine. I showed you about this page and about this report. One last thing I want to mention, I wrote one other thing down too. New in R2 is the column sorts. If you haven't seen this, you are going to love this one. I'm sitting here on the customer list, and this works everywhere. If I want this list to be alphabetical, now it's just click the name column, and look, my customer list suddenly is alphabetical. How cool is that? If I want it sorted by location, I can just click or double click, and now it sorts it alphabetically. How about by balance? I want to see who's the worst in my collection. So now I'm ranking my customers according to their balance due. Die for that. Okay, 2013 R2. Got to have this stuff. This is so important. And this is available. This column sort is everywhere. Okay, now this is not, I can't say this is something cost control done. We want to say thank you to Microsoft. Send them a nice letter saying, I love the ability to sort your columns by just clicking it. Okay, I want to click it by, well, phone number wouldn't apply, but certainly balance does. Look at there, I'm ranking my customers. And it's everywhere. Items, everywhere in the system. So, now it doesn't work on I don't think it works on my customers and my items. So Chris is asking there, you'd have to try and test that one out. I don't think it does. Okay, where am I? Oh, and the other one was a find. That was something I asked for a long time ago. When you want to find a customer, you can now just do Control F, which brings up this nice little dialogue. For find a customer based on name, or you can find based on phone number or anything that you want. It depends on which column you're on when you hit the Control F, and then you just type in, let's say company, something with their company in the name. So it goes in and finds the first occurrence, Deerfield Graphics Company. If I find next, takes me to ABC Company, then it takes me to XYZ Company. So you see it does a find based on that, and then if that's the one you want, you just double click him and it opens up that customer. So really nice to use the find command. I think you'll enjoy using that function as well. Okay, and of course you can always just sort by number. Just click on the number column and boom, it's by number. So it's all good. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up here, guys. A little bit of bad news, I guess, on the training. It does take some time to learn this. The good news is once you know it, it's easy, but you got to learn it. And one other piece of good news is an announcement about our training bundle. And I will tell you about the replay here in a minute. So did I put the bundle in here? Maybe I didn't. I thought I did. We have a bundle of our training classes. So if you are interested in the report designer and the page designer and so forth, you probably should take a look at our bundle of classes, which is all five classes, which includes basics of NAV 2013, manufacturing, page designer, report designer, and table designer are all in this one bundle. Normally they would be like $3,000. I mean, it's pretty expensive. But for when you bundle them together and buy them all at once, we reduce that to $1,997. And you can just click the Add to Cart button and get all of our training classes at once. So a real discount if you want to do it that way. All right, again, that's on cost control software. Okay, so everybody wants to know, how do you get access to the replay of this webinar, because I am going to save this off. You simply ask for it. It's just that simple. So if you want a copy for your company, for somebody else to learn some of these things, I'm more than happy to share my knowledge with you, but you just simply ask. You can either type it into the question box right here in the live webinar, or you can send me an email afterwards and say, Rick, I really liked your webinar. I've got some other people that need to see this, and please send me a link to the replay. I'll try to get that posted in the next couple of days. Okay, now I want to do one last poll before you leave, so sit tight. Here's your last poll. Have you learned anything today? So let me know. I learned a lot. I learned a little. I still have questions. Just put in whether you learned anything today. So Katie says yes. Jeff says yes, I learned a lot. Good, Jeff. Glad you were here. Yay. Yes, definitely. Thank you. Susan says. Alex says yes, thank you. Yes. Paula says, yes, I learned a lot, and a lot of what I'm already doing is reinforced. Good. Yep, you get a lot of yes. Thank you, thank you. A lot of thanks. Learning a lot. Thanks from Fine. Chris says, learned a little. Looks more than just trying to figure things out, I think is what you're saying. Julie says, yes, thank you. Thomas says, yes, this is all new to me. And yes, learned a lot. Excited to see the new features. Good. That's why I do these things. And by the way, everything that you saw me do here today is part of our foundation pack. So a lot of times, I'll just mention this, a lot of times you may think, well, you know, why do I have to design all these screens? You don't. You can buy them pre-built. And that is what Foundation Pack is all about. Foundation Pack has all the customers. They look just like this. We've promoted the things that we think make most sense. Same for the vendors. We've got them all organized for you ahead of time, so it simplifies the whole process. That's what cost control software does. So if you are interested in one of our catalogs of all of our products, again, just let me know. Type it in here in the Q&A box or send me an email. You've all got my email address because you got the confirmation, and you can also just go to Cost Control Software and pick the Contact Us page. So there's lots of ways to get in touch with us. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording, but I'm going to stay on the line.